It's a matter of great privilege and pleasure for me to talk to you about a concept called flipped classroom, which actually transforms the teaching learning process through active engagement. The agenda for this session is to talk about a little bit about introduction of the same, what is a flipped classroom, three domains of learning, need for flipped learning, structure of flipped classroom, role of a teacher, role of student, impact on learning, and Bloom's taxonomy. In that context, we would talk about because NEP 2020 talks about these aspects, and we must transform the classrooms, the teachers, and the students to this new requirement. So, a flipped classroom is an innovative pedagogical approach in which the traditional teaching model is reversed. Instead of delivering lectures during classroom hours and assigning practice work at home, students first study the instructional content independently before coming to the class. So, what is a flipped classroom? A flipped classroom is an instructional strategy where students learn basic concept before class through videos, reading materials, podcast, online modules. And classroom time is used for discussion, problem solving, collaboration, application based activities. So the engagement level, if you see, would be more if they have already gone through the concepts. Whatever you wanted to teach them in the classroom in the form of a lecture, that you can record in advance and share with them as videos, as I'm doing with you. I'm recording my video in advance. I will share some reading material with you. And this video is like a podcast actually for you all. And there could be some online modules also which can be given to the students. So when they come to the classroom, they are ready to discuss. And they are having certain problems which can be solved in the classroom if they have not been able to understand something. And even peer learning can happen in this because other students have also gone through those contents. I go a little further in this. I assign duties of students in the form of groups to have presentations in the classroom and then discuss as if they are the teachers. I am the facilitator, and it is their duty to teach, and the duty of the other remaining students, like a group of 4, 5, 6, 7, is supposed to cover a particular topic or a unit, and they come prepared to become a teacher in the classroom. So it's like a Muni model which is being practiced in the Muni International School. Dr. Ashok Kumar Thakurji is advocating that, and by doing it as a role model in a school, it is advisable to listen to his talks also, which are available on YouTube. So that would be additional material for you, those videos which he has shared with us. And I have been doing that for more than 2 decades now, and I have found the usefulness of this in the higher education also. At the PG level, I have found that for MBA, it is very, very useful. Even for MCOM students also, I have practiced to some extent, but largely with the MBA students or the PGDM students. So how it is different? If we see the traditional model, which we have been following from quite some time, although real traditional would be the Gurukul system, but the Macaulay system could be called as a traditional system around which we have made our education system currently. So those are to be seen as the traditional model where lecture in the classroom happens. Whereas in the flipped classroom, the lecture will happen at home because you have already shared your lecture to them, and they can listen to your lecture as per their own convenience. So in the traditional model, the homework is after the class. When they reach home, then they are supposed to do homework. Many times we have found as parents that mothers do the homework more than the children. And in the flipped model, it is the activities in the classrooms which would be there because they have already understood the concept, because they have already delivered the lecture through the online mode or through the video mode and things like that. So we can call the traditional model or the Macaulay system model as teacher-centered model. And we can call this flipped classroom model as a student-centered model. If you remember that NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020, talks about student-centered models. So this is something which is in line with the NEP 2020, which is expected from every teacher, every stakeholder of the education system to follow. If we think about learning, there are three domains of learning. Like cognitive is for knowledge aspect of it, where mental skills are required. Then the second is the affective domain. Growth in feelings or emotional areas are there, which is reflected in the form of attitude of an individual. And the third is the psychomotor, the manual or physical skills. The ability to do certain things. Like we say, there are four pillars of learning: learning to know, learning to do. So learning to know is in the cognitive part, and learning to do is in the psychomotor part. Learning to live together and learning to be is, to some extent in the affective part. Learning to live together definitely is there in that, and learning to be is much higher than that. Only affective would not work on that. But at least out of the four pillars of learning, as we say, which UNESCO has in 1996 has framed a report on this. So these are also in line with that. So the cognitive domain, if we start with that, as per Bloom 1956, the cognitive domain involves knowledge and the development of intellectual skills. This includes the recall or recognition of specific facts, procedural patterns, and concepts that serve in the development of intellectual abilities and skills. The cognitive domain encompasses of 6 categories, which include knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And this was later on improved, which we will see. The affective domain includes the feelings, emotions, and attitudes of the individual. The categories of affective domain include receiving phenomena, responding to phenomena, valuing things or objects or people, organization, and characterization. This is as per Anderson and others, 2011. And the psychomotor domain, as per Simpson, 1972, it includes physical movement, coordination, and use of the motor skill areas. Development of these skills requires practice and is measured in terms of speed, precision, distance, procedures, or techniques in execution. So it takes care of the learning to do aspect of it. Learning to know, as I mentioned, is the first part of it, wherein we talk about cognitive domain. Although the 6 categories have been mentioned under the cognitive domain, as per Bloom's, that it is knowledge, comprehension, application. Application is about learning to do, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The world of education has gradually adopted the strategy of every child matters structure that requires that all learners with different needs are counted. A holistic lesson developed by a teacher requires the inclusion of all the 3 domains in constructing learning tasks for students. Why there is a need for flipped learning? It challenges in traditional teaching what we call as passive learning. Limited student interaction, one size fits all instruction, less time for doubts and practice, because if it is a 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour session or 1.5 hour session, Generally, teachers believe that it is their task to speak. They are paid for speaking in the classroom, delivering lectures. So the students become passive learners. That is the challenge in this system. Whereas modern educational needs are, and particularly the requirements of job in the future in the context of Industry 4.0 and the upcoming Industry 5.0, in the age of artificial intelligence, in the age of generative artificial intelligence, in the age of agentic artificial intelligence, AI agents, and all that. We need human beings to develop these aspects more than it was required before. What I just said, critical thinking, digital learning skills, personalized learning, and collaboration and innovation. This is what is required, whereas we make students, competitive instead of collaborative. Every parent wants their child to be the number one in the class. So that is the competitive spirit, स्पर्धा कि हम भावना का निर्माण करते हैं उसमें जो है, जबकि साथ मिलके काम करना, collaboration is like working together, learning to live together. What 4 pillars I was talking to you about: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. So those are not dealt with if we are creating an environment of competition. So what is the structure of the flipped classroom? Before class, watch recorded lectures, read study material, complete quizzes. Nowadays, even in the classroom, you can do quizzes. Whatever is being discussed in the classroom, you can have quiz there also. And before that also you can have. So during the class, group discussion, case studies, problem solving, and peer learning that takes place in the classroom. And after the class is about reflection, assignments, and assessments. Assessments can happen during the class also, and after the class, assignments would be done by them, which are more practical oriented. That would be better. In the age of artificial intelligences, the more we allow them to do in the classroom, the better it is, because otherwise, what mothers were doing as parents to do the homework of the children, now AI has taken that role, and every assignment can easily be done by the AI for the students. So remember that. So less work to be done at home in terms of what can be produced. The competence needs to be developed. So for that, more practice is required. So that aspect has to be taken care of. So what is the role of a teacher in the traditional classroom or the Macaulay system classroom? He is an information, or she is an information provider, lecturer, controller. Whereas in the fifth classroom, he is or she is a mentor or guide or facilitator or learning designer. So the role has changed of a teacher. Like we say, a teacher has to become a guru. So it is journey towards that side, Teacher responsibilities, if we see that, create learning materials, plan engaging activities, monitor student progress, and provide them feedback. Feedback is very critical in this case because student many of the times think that what they are doing is right. Even AI gives them some information which may not be factually correct. And if you ask for the authentic data, the references which already exist in the credible sources, only then you can expect AI also to provide a genuine kind of a thing. Otherwise, AI also gives you information which does not exist, and it can cook that information for you. So be very careful when you are using AI, both as a student or as a teacher, we must say that, or as a stakeholder. So we must provide them feedback, even how to use AI. So we can't stop the technology invasion, but we can always make it, better, or be in the driving seat of the technology to be driven. And the role of students, if we see, students are expected to learn basic concepts independently, participate actively in class, collaborate with peers, ask questions, apply knowledge practically. So their role has also changed. If the role of teachers has changed, the role of students has to change. And that is what Muni model in Muni International School, he is talking about, Dr. Ashok Kumar Thakur is talking about this dimension only, that the school students should not be treated as passive learners. They should be actively involved in the development process of their own learning process, and also they can used as teachers for teaching the peers or their juniors. So skills developed is self-learning, communication, critical thinking, teamwork, and responsibility. These are the skills that get developed through this process of flipped classroom. So what is the impact on learning? Educational outcomes, if we see, because NEP 2020 also talks about outcome-based education, OBE, like program-based outcomes. What are the learning outcomes of a particular course? Program-specific outcomes, like that. So it quantifies how much are the outcomes. So research shows flipped classroom can increase retention rates, it can improve conceptual clarity, enhance student motivation, encourage independent learning, develop higher order thinking skills. When I learned first time a computer language, at that time it was basic, COBOL, Fortran, Pascal, and all that. When I learned the first language of computers, I found that all the other languages can be learned by the same methodology, following the same process. So the ability to learn on your own gets developed once you realize this, that if I have mastered one computer language, I can master any computer language. That kind of satisfaction or that kind of confidence that gets created once you achieve for one is amazing. It's very, very, encouraging also, for like you solve a mathematical problem, you are tempted to solve more. If you fail in solving a mathematical problem once, then you feel dejected and you may not like to pursue it further. You would like to do something else. So same is the scenario here. If you are able to learn by listening at home, you are basically learning to know alone without the help of any physically present teacher there. That boosts your confidence level to the same extent as I was mentioning to you earlier, that you can learn any language, computer language, just by following certain steps and using certain books, which chapter to go, and on the computer you start practicing that. Now, Bloom's taxonomy alignment, if we talk about, lower order learning can be done at home, higher order learning can be done in the classroom or should be done in the classroom. It is important, even the lower level or lower order learning, which is like remember, understand, because without that, like if you don't remember the alphabets, you can't learn English language. If you don't remember the words, you can't understand English language, you can't speak. So certain things are there to remember. So lower order is also important. You can't undermine the importance of lower order learning, but that need not be tested in the classroom much, because you can test higher level or higher order learning in the classroom, because that would ensure, if you are able to speak in English language, say for example, or any language. Nowadays there is a lot of focus in national education policy on ability to learn in your own mother tongue, and the schools and education institutions are required to provide that in the classroom, because it is believed that or there are scientific evidences that the mother tongue is the most profound language for any child, and the learning is the fastest in that language. So if we are able to provide that environment, then the child will, the child picks up the first language at the home without going to school, just by watching, observing, remembering, on his own or on our own. Nobody, puts much effort like what we do in the school for the learning process. It happens automatically. So whatever happens automatically at home is something which is the most profound experience of a child. So Bloom's taxonomy is a series of cognitive skills and learning objectives arranged in a hierarchical model. This taxonomy of educational objectives gets its name from its creator, Benjamin Bloom. Back in the 1940s, Bloom and his colleagues devised his taxonomy by categorizing a range of educational goals and arranging them into a hierarchy. Bloom believed that by classifying goals in this manner, it would make it easier for educators to more accurately assess student performance. And Lauren Anderson, a former student of Bloom, revisited the cognitive domain in the learning taxonomy in the mid 90s and made some changes, with perhaps the two most prominent ones being changing the names in the 6 categories from noun to verb forms and slightly rearranging them. So, from knowledge, it has moved to remembering or remember, comprehension has gone to understanding, application has gone to applying, analysis, analyzing, synthesis, evaluating, and evaluation as creating or create, evaluate. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. If we are able to do this or develop this in the students, and then we are actually talking about holistic development of students. If we don't have these 6 taken care of, then the holistic development of a student is not going to happen. So what is remember? Recall facts and basic concepts like define, duplicate, list, memorize, repeat, state. And what is understand? The action verbs are classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, locate, recognize, report, select, translate. And apply is about execute, implement, solve, use, demonstrate, interpret, operate, schedule, sketch. That is for applying. So ability to do, learning to do is about apply. Learning to know is about remember, and to some extent you can say understand. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. So top 3 levels are higher levels in this. Analyze is, something which draws connections among ideas, differentiate, organize, relate, compare, contrast, distinguish, examine, experiment, question, test. All these are keywords for the analyze part of it. For evaluating, it is appraise, the copies of the students. And create is for design, assemble, construct, conjecture, develop, formulate, author, investigate. So it's about producing new or original work, like you write a book, you are an author, you are writing a book. If there is a committee to investigate certain matters, then you investigate there. If you are asking a person to draw a painting, then also it is about creating it. A design architect creates a design. So the entire profession is based on designing the architecture of a building and things like that. Assembly line, if you see, the cars are generally put in the assembly line. So that is about assemble. Construction of buildings, as you see, all the children do it as a game in their homes. So all these are parts of create dimension. So students recognize and recall basic facts. As I mentioned to you earlier, learning a language like remember is the basic, recall, ability to recall concept, facts, concept, processes, patterns, structures, and settings. At this level, teacher might ask students to recite a poem from a textbook, remember geometric formulas, or list countries on a continent. All these are testing the remember part of it, the ability to recall basic facts and so on. And these are the action words for that. So choose, cite, give example, group, know, label, list, listen, locate, match, memorize, outline, quote, read, recall, recite, record, relate, repeat, reproduce, review, select, show, sort, underline, write. And the second level is students decode the meaning and significance behind concepts, facts, and ideas and communicate them to others. At this level, students can summarize the main ideas of a story or classify different items. The action words for this is account for, annotate, associate, define, describe, discuss, estimate, give examples of, give main idea, identify, interpret, observe, outline, paraphrase, recognize, reorganize, report, research, restate, retell, review, translate. And the third is the apply part of it. Students use the knowledge or skills they have developed in new context or situations. At this level, students may be expected to create a budget using mathematical concepts, write an advice column for a character in a story, or paint using a particular artistic style. So this is all about learning to do domain, learning to know, learning to do. The first three levels are basically into these aspects. And the fourth is, the third, the action verbs are adapt, apply, calculate, change, collect, compute, construct, demonstrate, dramatize. You must have seen drama on this theater or on the or on the auditorium in the school. Students are doing that. Draw, exhibit, illustrate, interpret, interview, make, manipulate, operate, paint, practice, sequence, show, solve, translate, use. In accounting, we say solve this problem, or in mathematics, we say solve this problem. In a painting class, we say paint this. And the fourth is analyze. Here, the mind is required more because this is now starting of the journey of the higher order skills. Students break down concepts into their component parts and identify the connections between them. At this level, students might distinguish between fact and opinion in a newspaper, deconstruct how a machine works, or identify logical fallacies in an argument. And the action words are analyze, appraise, arrange, categorize, compare, contrast, debate, detect, diagram, discriminate, dissect, distinguish, examine, experiment, group, inquire, inspect, investigate, order, probe, question, relate, research, separate, sequence. Genome sequencing, you must have heard of. Dissection of the body parts, doctors generally do. Sift, survey, test. So all these are for analyze. And the top two levels are evaluate and create now as per the new model. Students use the knowledge and skills they have gained so far to appraise a situation, state an opinion, and justify their stance. At this level, students can do things like select the best source of vitamin C in a diet or critique the value of new technologies in a specific context. And the action words are appraise, argue, assess, choose, conclude, criticize, debate, decide, deduce, defend, determine, discriminate, evaluate, infer, judge, justify, measure, predict, prioritize, probe, rank, rate, recommend, reject, revise, score, select, tell, why, validate, value. You do a lot of valuation or the scoring part of it. When you evaluate the answer sheets, you give scores after that. So you do these as your routine matters things. But are the students able to do that? Is the question that we have to answer. Next level is create, the highest level in this Bloom's taxonomy. The ability to do something new, create original work, the creativity and innovation, as we call. Or there are concepts of intellectual property rights, patents, copyrights, trademarks, and all that. They are protected just because they are considered to be original work. So students formulate their own solutions to problems and create original work. At this level, teachers might ask students to write a poem of their own, develop a business plan for a new company, or design a machine to tackle a problem. You may also ask the students to go to the community nearby and see the problems there and devise some solutions. We have seen forums like Enactus, road track clubs, interact clubs in schools, when they go out and meet such people like in an orphanage, or if they go in the old age home or somewhere, they find a new environment and the problems they observe, and they are able to find solutions and even help them. Just spend some time with them, with the old age people, to give them some happiness. Even that is a task which is learned when we go there. So empathy gets developed, the compassion gets developed. So the traits of personality like compassion cannot be built in the classroom. For that, you have to send the children to those places where they go and see the life of those people. Even visiting a hospital or a jail, that also opens a lot of areas what people generally don't know. And the keywords for create are act, assemble, blend, compile, compose, construct, create, design, develop, devise, forecast, formulate, generate, imagine, improve, invent, organize, originate, plan, predict, prepare, produce, propose, set up. So when we say NEP 2020 and the flipped classroom, we need to align with this flipped classroom because it supports the objectives of NEP 2020 by promoting experiential learning, competency-based education, critical thinking, technology-enabled learning, multidisciplinary education. All these are part of NEP 2020. Objectives, NEP vision is to move from rote learning to conceptual understanding and skill development. The flipped model directly contributes to this transformation. So how to flip your classroom, the three-step process, if you see, first is identify content for pre-class learning, pinpoint concepts students struggle with or benefit from applying with guidance. So if you're able to pinpoint that earlier, then it will really help. Develop pre-class resources, create engaging materials, videos, reading podcasts for students to learn content at their own pace. Third is design in-class application activities, plan collaborative work, problem-solving discussions, and hands-on projects. So the third is the most important because it has to be done live. The earlier two can take time and it can be seen also at their own convenience. So both have time. The teacher has time to identify content for pre-class learning and to develop pre-class resources. Students have time for your, whatever you have developed as pre-class resources or content for pre-class learning. They have time to go through that at their own pace, at their own convenience, at their own time, at their own space. And the most critical is the third part, design in class application activities, because that should be engaging. Otherwise, they will lose interest in that. So we have to start identifying the flip-worthy content, focus on application, what in-class activities are rushed or rarely completed, target student struggles, which topic consistently lead to lower exam or assignment scores, leverage teacher expertise, where can students benefit most from your direct guidance and feedback. So give your attention on those dimensions. So how to craft engaging pre-class resources, video lectures, short focus videos, for example, using Panopto, Edpuzzle, allow students to pause and rewatch assigned readings, curated articles or textbooks, chapters with guiding questions, interactive content, podcasts, animations, or online simulations, attention before class. And the third is maximizing in-class application, collaborative problem solving. Students work in groups on complex challenges, hands-on activities and labs applying concepts in practical scenarios, rich discussion, deeper dives into implications and connections. So when they discuss, and if you are able to take them to deep dive methods, then they really enjoy because that touches the core of their personality, what we call as Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, Anandamaya Kosh, that is a Panchakosha concept. As we go from gross to the subtle, the insights become more deeper and deeper. Like we say, Annamaya Kosh, the gross body, is the most grossest level of our existence. As we start going from gross to subtle, that means from Annamaya to Pranamaya, which is like breath, your pranic body, the body which governs your physical body. If prana is not there, the breath is not there, your body has no meaning. So the meaning is given by the breath, or the life is given by the breath to the body. As you go more subtler than the breath is the mind. Manomaya Kosh is the mind which governs how your breath is to be, modulated, what you should think, what you should not think. Then the intellect comes, what is right and what is wrong, the buddhi part of it, the intelligence part of it. That is the Vijnanamaya Kosh, the intellect. And you go more subtler, which you can't see. You may not be able to experience also, but that exists is the Anandamaya Kosh. When you are in a state of bliss, you are in the Anandamaya Kosh. So the journey from gross to subtle is about deeper dives into implications and connections. Like it is easy to say what you see, like this is phone, this is a cell phone. It is easy to say that because that is coming from what you have remembered as the identification name for this particular instrument. But what it constitutes, like human body constitutes Panch Bhutas, like, earth, water, fire, air, space. Again, this is in that sequence from gross to subtle. Earth is the most grossest. Water is less grosser than the earth. Fire is less grosser than the water. Air, you can only feel that breath is going in and out if you put your fingers in front of the nostrils, then you realize breath is going in and out. Otherwise, air, you can only see that, the trees are, the leaves of the trees are moving. That means air is blowing. Or through your nostrils, if you put your finger, you can feel that the air is blowing. And the space is even subtler than that. We all live in space, but many times we think that we are on the sofa, on the chair, on the desk, but we are in space. Like fish lives in water, we live in space, we breathe through air. But these are subtler things, and it is difficult to realize that it is considered to be automatic, that you're breathing in and out. But how to breathe is something which you realize when you go deeper into that. So deeper dives into implications and connections, like how to pronounce, say, a simple word like Om. How much weight is to be given to O, and Ma, decides about what kind of therapeutic uses it has. So if you have a problem in the throat, how much you have to give emphasis on which part of it. If you want balance or focus in the head, then if you have more focus on the ma part of it, makar, as we say, the last part of it, the humming bee sound, that creates focus. So these are all which I have given you examples of, life of an individual. As we start going deeper into what is the meaning of mudras and all that. So as we dive deeper into things, we realize there are so many things for every aspect of life. For every subject, you can go deep, you can have deep dives, and you realize that there are so many things which you could not understood earlier, or you could not understand at when you were students, even though you were topper in your class or in the school or in the CBSE. But when you started teaching that, or when you started doing deep dives, then you realize, oh, these are the deeper implications of this. So this much one word of, 2 words of deeper dives has taken so much of time. So every word actually can be worked upon on these aspects, and you can have deeper dives. Every word has so much of value, and every word has actually impact on your body. If you go deeper into this aspect, that how much a word impacts your body in terms of your energy levels, then also there are studies, you can realize that what you speak, it has an impact on your body. So everything that you look at, you will find that there are deeper dimensions of that. And teachers provide intensive support to struggling students while others work independently can happen also, and you should take care of that. That is called differentiated practice. So what is the future of flipped classroom? The emerging trends are the future of flipped learning includes artificial intelligence in education, adaptive learning systems, gamification, virtual and augmented reality, hybrid and blended learning models. So gamification, if we speak on this one word, it can be, for hours you can talk on gamification in the age of AI, gamification using technology, and so on and so forth. So this itself could be something which can be elaborated for hours and hours. Flipped learning is becoming an important part of digital and future-ready education systems. And are we ready for that? Are we supposed to know all this? So this is one extra marks. If you see, practical exercise can be done in the classroom, or you can have it at home also. So this we will deal in our next session. Wayground.com is also very interesting tool which you must use. This also will take up in the next session. This is my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can write Professor Ajay Kumar Singh, you can find that, or you can youtube.com/@drajay Singh, or you can use this QR code for joining this. We'll have more interesting videos on different dimensions. As I mentioned, a little bit of deep dive into some of them. So you'll find on Panchakosha, you'll find on mind management, you will find a playlist on miracles, which talks about every word that you speak, what I was talking to you about. You will find that every word is processed by your body in the miracles playlist. So there are so many things which we can discuss. Let's close this because the time is running out for this particular session. It was nice talking to all of you. Namaste.